think is one of these reactions in the late 19th, early 20th centuries in the Middle East to the overall crisis of the region. And people adapted a lot of like modern nation state ideas from Western Europe. And there were basically two, or let's say three alternatives what to do with this crumbling Ottoman Empire, transforming it into like nation states, but according to what? I mean, there were no boundaries, there is no history, nothing. Or building kind of a people based on the idea of Arabism, or kind of creating the region into a state based on Islamic thought. So Pan-Arabism basically is this idea to amalgam ethnic identity, language, with a nation state, recurring back on the like great times of the Arabs until the 12th century, but not originally built on religion, but built on the language and on ethnic belonging. So in the beginning, it was even a strong Christian supporters of this idea, because the Christians, these intellectual Christians, thought through Pan-Arabism that could push back Islam and movements that were trying to kind of amalgam modernity with something like a new caliphate or something like that. So I think that was the very beginning. And the reflection in the Middle East, that's one of the most dominant at all. Why are we so weak? How it come that Europe got so powerful and strong, and we, the Arabs, who were dominant until like the late or the Middle Ages, are now colonized, totally backwarded, lack modernity, industry, and everything. So this is basically the beginning of Pan-Arabism. And then it developed into various kind of streams or various factions. And one became later this Ba'athism, and the kind of role model for that part of Pan-Arabism that became so important in Syria and Iraq has been more or less these kind of nationalistic fascist movements in the 20s and 30s. So we should not forget Michel Aflaq, the father of Iraqi Pan-Arabism, traveled to Europe, and he was very impressed, for example, by Mussolini and fascist Italy. Yeah, well, Pan-Arabism is again this idea. The Arabs were a wonderful, great, scientifically leading empire in the Middle Age, superior to even Europe. So then they started a huge decline. So if they want to be what they have been in the past, they need a kind of renaissance. And the renaissance is built on Arab identity. Arab identity means mainly language, ethnicity, shared history, not necessarily on kind of Islam. And they refuse kind of the nation states drawn by colonial powers. And the aim is to create this homogeneous kind of empire, reaching again basically from the Atlantic to the Persian border, and becoming one of the leading world powers again. In the meanwhile, of course, they had a lot of this anti-colonial, anti-imperialist stance. So in the better way, or originally, this should be built on state socialism, refusing like the dangers of capitalism and meaning free. So anything related with liberal thinking, a liberal lifestyle was more or less opposed. And the big example, more or less, for them in the 20th century has been like Mussolini's Italy, or later even Nazi Germany, with its power strengths and the idea that they are kind of expanding to every place where Germans are living or what Germans claim to be German land.